the mind is a fascinating organ, and it's amazing when you realize and we start to dig and look under the hood and start to look at things and what drives us. Well, the simple fact of the matter is, whether we like to admit it or not, mindset is everything. And I'll tell you why I say this. Is because at the end of the day, if you think about it, life to me, I see our lives like driving in a car. We're on a journey, right? We're born, we live, and then we die. And then for us Christians out there, we have the hope of eternal living with God in heaven. But down here on earth, I see it as more like this journey that we're on is both a test and a lesson. And at the same time, we can either make the journey fun, or we can make it hard on ourselves. And believe me, I'm someone who had to learn things the hard way. You know, pushing and doing all the things and trying to go at 100 miles an hour when you're almost out of gas, and then until eventually you get stuck on the side of the road. You only have two options. You either get stuck and you stay stuck, or you call for help. Now, first of all, I wouldn't advise until we get to that point. Ideally, if we are good drivers and we are driving ourselves in the direction we need to be, we will see the signs. We will obey the rules of the road, which is slow down when you see, speed bumps are there for a reason. Sometimes you need to take a detour. Sometimes you need to exit and go fill up with gas and get refreshment. But in order for us to arrive safely at our destination, we are the drivers. And if our minds are a hot mess, believe me, it doesn't matter what kind of vehicle you're in, you're not going to get to your destination, because you either have living on the wrong fuel, or you're just don't even have the GPS coordinates. And if you don't even know where you're going, which is where purpose comes from, if we know where we're heading, it makes things so much easier, because getting in the car and just saying, hey, let's just drive, like, kind of to me seems like a little bit pointless. But unfortunately, so many of us in life sort of fumble along, don't realize, we kind of just feel like the world is pulling us along. But here's the greatest news, is that you are in the driver's seat of your vehicle. You get to choose. And if the biggest thing we can do is to figure out where we're going and realize what we have in our vehicle that equips us to get there, in other words, our gifts, our talents, our abilities, our personality, it makes the ride so much more fun. But here's even the biggest caveat, which I love to mention, is that so many of us forget that we can actually switch roles. And what I mean by that is, I've realized when I have my sticky fingers on the steering wheel, and I'm so bent on doing things my way, it can be so much more harder. However, I've learned it's actually better to be a passenger and to let God take care of the wheel and let Him do the driving. And it's even so much more fun when I let Him put in the GPS coordinates, because eventually we will get to a much better place than I even could have imagined. So for me, as you can tell, I love these analogies and being able to help us to understand. And if we put ourselves in that seat of, hey, life can be fun. The journey can be fun. Sometimes we go a little faster. Sometimes we have to slow down. Sometimes we apply the brakes. Sometimes we have to stop. And that's okay. I would just rather get there safely and get there and make the journey fun than have to keep pushing until we fall apart. So really what we want to talk about today is really why mindset is everything, and why mindset is key, because you are making those decisions as the driver of your vehicle. Unfortunately, as adults, we have some junk in our trunk, which can slow us down, which sometimes we don't want to look under the hood of the car when things need to be fixed, or we don't want to clear out the junk that's really weighing us down. But it's so vitally important. And I always think of it this way: is you can go through life in a banged up jalopy. Yeah, you can patchwork and you can try fix things. But what if we just decided to go to the garage, allow God to do the deep inner work that He needs to do in the hood, rewire, do the new things we need to do, get us with a new set of tires to retire ourselves in the old way and step into the new, so that we can get ourselves back on the road in a far more efficient way. Like, I don't know about you, but I would rather drive a Ferrari that gets there so much more smoother, faster, and in style than dealing up with something that's going to fall apart every 2 seconds. You can keep driving the car until you either one of two things: crash and burn, or just completely stop. And that's what burnout for me looked like, is that I just kept pushing and pushing. I had my foot on the gas accelerator pedal for so long until eventually I burnt out the engine. I literally couldn't keep going. And anyone knows, if you've ever broken down on the side of the road, you have no choice but to pull over, to call the AAA or whoever is going to come and haul the car away. And it's a lot of money and effort and resources and wasted time, where if we had just seen the signs, if we saw the battery light or the oil light that said, hey, you're almost out, you need to go fill up. If we allowed ourselves to not be in denial and just pretend that everything's fine when it's not, or if we're willing to say, hey, what do I need to do to take care of this vehicle so I can go the long haul? Because sometimes it's hard, like especially when you have a whole bunch of people in the car with you who are going along with you and are relying on you, especially like if you're a parent or you in relationships and you feel like people are relying on you to get them there. You know, sometimes it's hard to get there when, first of all, there's a lot of noise. People are shouting. I don't know about you, trying to concentrate on a drive when there's lots of traffic and you're weaving in between and people in the back seats are fighting and the kids are carrying on and this one's having a meltdown, and it's really hard to concentrate. But the best thing we can do is for ourselves is to keep awake. The safety of the driver is imperative. If we are not taking care of ourselves, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Nobody is going to get there, which is why it's so important, especially for us women who are like, you know, we're moms and we're wives and we have homes and we're in a leadership position. People are relying on us. So it's actually, we cannot afford not to take care of ourselves. We cannot afford not to stop and fill up with gas and take a breather and have some time out. And it's got to that stage where life, it's only going to result in two options. Either you thrive or you feel like you're barely surviving. And I don't know about you, but I personally would rather be managing myself, managing my emotions, managing my mind, managing my energy by making choices that aren't always the easiest. Like saying no is hard. Yeah. And it's going to upset a few people, but it's okay.